Jinder Mahal mania is running wild again, fellas. Remember back in 2017 when a guy named Jinder Mahal beat the established top star veteran Randy Orton to win the WWE title? A match that Jinder seemingly got out of nowhere with essentially no build to Jinder's character as a main event caliber superstar? Well, next Monday, Jinder Mahal has the potential to beat a top star veteran, Seth Rollins, to win the World Heavyweight title. A match that Jinder seemingly got out of nowhere with essentially no build to Jinder's character as a main event caliber superstar. Is this sounding familiar? I bet it does, because it's almost beat for beat the exact same 2017 saga that saw Jinder Mahal become one of the top champions in the WWE, which by the way, is something that Jake the Snake Roberts, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and Scott Hall never accomplished. So bow down to our Maharaja. Now, Jinder Mahal getting this world title opportunity hasn't just rightfully left fans scratching their heads, but it's also left the owner of the second biggest professional wrestling company on the planet, AEW, Tony Khan, to completely have a meltdown on Twitter. And it's such good shit. Let's talk about it. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know you're gonna like this channel because we upload daily wrestling content. Seriously, go look at my page. I haven't missed a single day of uploading ever since I started doing daily uploads back in mid-2023, so I'm sticking to these guns. Now, just to clarify, in this video, I won't be reviewing Monday Night Raw. Instead, I'm gonna be talking about my thoughts on the whole Jinder Mahal saga and him being immediately catapulted to the top of the roster again. If you do want my full review of that episode of Monday Night Raw, you can find it over on Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. There you're going to find my full 20-minute review of Monday Night Raw, alongside with my review of Friday Night SmackDown, the most recent NXT, and you're going to get my podcast 3 days earlier as well. So go check it out if you wanted. Patreon.com/SantiZap. I'll make it the top link in the description or the pinned comment. Now, to understand how we've landed here, we first need to understand one thing, and that is that Triple H is really good at booking heels, almost a little too good. Because in a past era of professional wrestling, most heels were heels simply because it was convenient for them to be the bad guy, because they were bad guys that were willing to do the comically evil thing so long as it meant winning. It was a really simple formula that almost always led to people booing the heels and cheering for the babyface. It was easy. However, Triple H has drastically changed how the modern day heel is portrayed. No longer are they portrayed as comically evil individuals, but instead the modern day heels have depth, they have motivation, and most importantly, they have justification for their actions. And when the heel has justifications, a lot of the times they start to garner a following, which causes people to cheer for them instead of the babyface. And nowhere have these symptoms been more prevalent than in the entirety of Seth Rollins' title reign, where he's feuded with heels that by and large have really great stories, really good motivations, and fantastic justifications for the things that they're doing. And that, in many cases, has led a good chunk of the WWE universe to start rooting for that heel and start wishing for Seth to drop the title. Let's just look at a couple of Seth's feuds over the last year. Finn Balor is right. He has gone through 7 years of agony to get to this moment. It was unfair how he was forced to relinquish his one and only world title only for Seth Rollins to take his spot at the top. He deserves to beat Seth. Nakamura is finally an awesome character that is fed up with how weak he has been booked over the past few years. They are finally using him well for the first time since NXT Black and Gold. He deserves to beat Seth. Drew is right. He never got to be champion in front of an audience, and the bloodline ruined his life. He deserves his moment in front of a live crowd after carrying the company through the pandemic. He deserves to beat Seth. These are the types of thoughts that happen when you give the heel really good stories and really good justifications, which is great. It leads to more diverse storytelling, in my opinion. I've really enjoyed it. All of these guys have had amazing narratives going into their feud with Seth Rollins. In fact, in my opinion, they've had better narratives than Seth himself, which makes me understand and sympathize why some people are getting fed up with Seth Rollins' title reign. It's because they keep matching him with guys that have great character arcs, motivations, justifications, and because we want to see them finally win the big one. Enter the modern day Maharaja, a heel that has been presented to us as the next guy that Seth Rollins is going to be feuding with, a heel with no story as to how he got to this point, a heel with no outwardly expressed motivations, and a heel with no proper justification for his evil doings. He is, in essence, the old style of heel that I mentioned earlier in this video, a heel where he's bad simply because it's convenient for the plot that he be bad. Essentially, the WWE is trying to finally put Seth Rollins in a feud where we don't want Seth to actively lose. And Jinder Mahal is the perfect guy to put across the ring from Seth Rollins to get that reaction out of us. The WWE knows that there's a portion of the fans that have resentment towards the 2017 Jinder Mahal title reign because he got it with no work, no effort, and was just put in that spot. So if you replicate the same story arc, you know that by default people are going to want to have Seth Rollins win. I mean, it makes sense, right? As Seth Rollins gears up for the road to WrestleMania, you don't want him to be surrounded with fan resentment because he's always winning feuds against the heels that we want to see win. The WWE wants you to finally see Seth Rollins as that babyface that you want to see conquer the evildoer. And whether you like it or not, whether you think it's rushed, whether you think it's lazy booking, whether you think he doesn't deserve it, we can't deny that this formula works with Jinder Mahal. And that's all it should have been. Seth having a 15-minute one-off inconsequential match with Jinder Mahal. Seth stands tall, the crowd loves him. It was a pretty easy playbook. Until Tony Khan on Twitter happened. I know most of my viewers are WWE fans, so let me just quickly catch you up in case you don't know who Tony Khan is. He is the owner and founder of All Elite Wrestling AEW, the second biggest wrestling company on the planet, the same company that Cody Rhodes, Jade Cargill, and CM Punk came from prior to joining the WWE. Essentially, the WWE's biggest competitor in the landscape of professional wrestling. Now, if you know anything about Tony Khan on Twitter, then you know that he can be a little bit unhinged at times. Like, it's bad enough where the majority of the internet wrestling community collectively agrees that this man needs to stop tweeting and he needs to get a PR team. You see, Tony Khan has a bit of a reputation of overreacting to Twitter trolls. Now, admittedly, internet wrestling community trolls are awful individuals, but at this point, they just know that they can get a rise out of Tony Khan, and holy smokes, did they ever get a rise out of Tony Khan this time. On the most recent episode of AEW Collision, an AEW wrestler named Hook called out AEW World Champion Samoa Joe, wanting to get a title shot from Joe. Now, it's important to keep in mind that this wrestler, Hook, has an overall career record in AEW of 28 wins and 1 loss. So in my eyes, it seems like a pretty justifiable setup for Hook. However, Twitter ran with the narrative that Hook isn't ready, that this is rushed, that it makes no sense, that Tony Khan doesn't know how to book professional wrestling. You know, your classic cocktail of AEW hate on Twitter. And because of this, Tony Khan decided to tweet, and I quote, "A double standard. Hook has a 28-1 career record, on a winning streak, calls out the champ. A logical challenge sparks online outrage." Now, had he stopped his tweet right there, everything would be fine because he kind of has a point. But he kept going and said, quote, "Jinder has literally lost every single match he's in for the past year. Immediately gets a title shot. Where is the rage?" Now, had Tony Khan had a PR team at this moment, they would all probably collectively be yelling, "Oh my God, Tony, for the love of God, stop." But Tony Khan being Tony Khan, he continued, and I quote, "A moral victory for USA Network is 1 win more than their world title challenger Jinder Mahal has in the past 364 days, because it's been literally a full year since he won a match. You really put AEW in our place, getting Jinder Mahal a big match on your TV show. Do it more often." Look, I get Tony's frustration with his entire situation because to a degree, he's right about the hate that his show is getting regarding Hook challenging for the world title, because in my opinion, the full justification for him challenging for a world title is there, but he did not need to try and bury Jinder Mahal in the process. Tony Khan is an owner. He's the gatekeeper of the second biggest professional wrestling company on the planet. Him publicly burying a professional wrestler that, by the way, has done nothing to him personally. Simply why? Because Twitter trolls got to him over something about his show? I'm gonna be honest, man, trying to bury Jinder in that situation is pretty freaking low. Had Tony Khan just kept his shade shooting at the WWE or the USA Network, then that's one thing. But actively burying a wrestler is not something that I can personally get behind. I think that's pretty messed up. Now, to add even more fuel to this already blazing dumpster fire, Tony Khan has put Hook in the line of fire to get even more backlash. And backlash he got because Jinder Mahal didn't just sit there and take it. Jinder clapped back on Twitter by replying to Tony Khan and said, quote, "Who the fuck is Hook?" Look, I'd like to be able to end this video by saying that this petty back and forth has no winners. But that would just be straight up lying to you, because the biggest winner in this entire saga is Jinder Mahal himself, who has now become the internet darling of the internet wrestling community. Because everyone is rushing to the defense of Jinder Mahal because it's not cool for a wrestling executive to publicly bury him. Like, it's okay for fans to publicly not like Jinder Mahal. Sure, like that's just fan reaction. That's how it is. But for Tony Khan to do it, that's not okay. It's almost like, imagine you're in a friend group and you have your friend that you politely bully because, you know, he's in your friend group and you make fun of him, you roast him. But when somebody else tries to do it, when somebody else tries to bully him, you stand up for him because no. You don't get to make fun of my friend. We get to make fun of our friend. And now, everybody now loves Jinder, and Jinder is more over than ever before. And now everyone wants Jinder to beat Seth Rollins, but the whole point of Jinder being here in the first place is for viewers to want Seth Rollins to win. So now people are going to be rooting for Jinder because of Tony Khan, so we're back to step one. This whole situation is like when Tony Schiavone spoiled Mankind defeating The Rock on live WCW TV. They thought that spoiling Monday Night Raw and bad-mouthing Mick Foley would get people to stay watching WCW, but it ended up having the complete opposite effect. The same thing is happening here because people are more excited than ever before to watch Jinder versus Seth Rollins. Tony Khan's tweets have now endeared the entire internet to Jinder Mahal and have made more people, unfortunately, bad-mouth poor Hook, who is, by the way, innocent in all of this. So this has completely backfired. I don't know, maybe this is just super big brain Tony Khan trying to reverse psychology the WWE into pulling another 2017 and putting the title on Jinder. If that's the case, goddamn, Tony Khan is an evil genius. I'm gonna leave you with this thought though. I never wanna hear any more BS about how Tony Khan can't build any stars, because today, folks, he made a megastar out of the modern day Maharaja by breaking the #1 rule of professional wrestling Twitter: do not hinder Jinder. Thanks for listening to this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to drop it a like. It's time for you to be able to sound off about this in the comments. The comments section here is a safe place, so go ahead and debate amongst yourselves civilly. But that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.